Hello and welcome to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast. My voice is a little bit different compared to last week, but I've just been struck with a cold. There's not much else wrong with me, but we're back for episode 3. And I'm joined by the usual suspects. Darren, how are you?
Hello, fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. James is repping another retro Ospreys here, 2 weeks running now. He's only been here 2 episodes and he's hitting top marks for his shirt. So James, how are we?
Hi boys, I think I'm running out of retro until I get back on the old vintage site. I think this is what 2009, 2010 maybe.
Yes, around that era, I want to say. I want to say it was 2009, 2010. Was it the year that the Ospreys won the league and
This
Leinster
is a Jerry.
won
This is a
the
Jerry Collins one. I know that. But yeah, no, looking forward to it. Lots to talk about this week.
Yeah, there is. There's been a game of rugby which I actually watched, which is rather refreshing as I missed the Dragons game. But yeah, it turns out that the second pre-season game against Cardiff wasn't all that bad. And obviously the URC kicks off in about 2 weeks, so that's quite exciting, as well as something called the World Cup, whatever that is. So yeah, we may as well kick off to we may as well start actually looking back at last week with our interview with
Yeah,
Ospreys commercial director Anthony Cole Johnson, and we'll start off with James. James, enjoy it.
yeah, really enjoyed it. He's such a down to earth. He's such a bloke. Really grateful that someone from within the club was willing to talk to us, and was so great at answering our questions as well. So, and the feedback's been 99% positive, and we look forward to having him back on, hopefully after Christmas.
Yeah, and Darren, you obviously joined us at the beginning, and unfortunately shoot off due to various reasons. But
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on Cole Johnson?
Well, it's not every day you get someone that high up, within the Ospreys, coming on to our podcast. We was the last podcast to get set up, and I think, if I'm right in saying that, we're the first one to have a guest on, so that's even better, isn't it? So yeah, looking forward to having him back on, and it's great to hear his thoughts on stuff behind the scenes that us supporters don't normally get to see what goes on behind the scenes. So it's always nice to have someone on.
No, yeah, definitely nice to see an insight of what's been going on over the summer. Obviously, it's been a long pre-season for players, coaches off the field, and then off the field. Then it's nice to see a different kind of insight. I thought the explanation on the kits was quite detailed and quite good. And then, after a couple of years when we've had, as Ospreys, I suppose, had quite a lot of merger talks, it's nice that we can kind of put that to bed. And it was interesting to hear about the discussion about the URC game in London against the Sharks. I nearly said Quins then, but it's definitely against the Sharks.
I mean, if some people had their way, it'd be against Quins.
Well, yes. If some, yeah, you're right there. If it was, if we were in a different universe, it would be against Quins. But yeah, but obviously the Ospreys are back at home in Swansea. Well, this week, anyways, and as they played against Cardiff in a friendly, and luckily for James, who's obviously moved outside of Wales, he's become exile, and luckily the Ospreys put on a stream for him.
Yeah, so, Ospreys did something right for once and put up a stream.
Yeah,
I was relying on a WhatsApp group to be like, I need something at halftime full time so I can actually talk next week. But mercifully, they put on quite a good stream actually. Clearly, I think if we're going back to the behind the scenes stuff, I think Ospreys really are starting to invest heavily in that side of the brand, and for them to put on a live stream. I know they've worked a lot with Buffoon Media in Aberavon a lot. So actually, just to put that on, it's a huge thing for Ospreys and Cardiff fans, actually. But you two boys went down. You were back down at the .com, in the posh stand. How was it?
it was good. Yeah, it was nice to be back home, and yeah, I wasn't sitting too far away from the actual players, so that was something different. Nice not every day you sit that close to superstars, should we call it? But yeah.
Well, just before the game, you could tell this was a pre-season game from the off. Obviously, the East stand wasn't open for the day, so we were all penned into the posh stand, or the West stand, but I call it the pot. Well, me and my dad called it the posh stand, as we've been season ticket holders in the East for so long, and yeah, you could see it was a pre-season game when Toby Booth is offering sweets to supporters and a couple of other players as well. I think he had a little dig at the players, and whilst they weren't accepting any sweets, he was thinking about throwing them to the fans, which would have been quite a bit entertaining, I thought, because I wasn't that far away from the coaching, well, from the Ospreys coaching bench. I was about 3 or 4 rows in front of that. I was opposite the press box, so it was quite a nice view. I actually saw the commentators. They're obviously doing the stream. They were there doing their job, and there wasn't much media presence there, I thought. So my dad was nagging me for about a good hour, telling me to bring my laptop, even though I did have it on me, but obviously I couldn't really forge my way into to the media.
You might as well have. I don't think they would have noticed.
Well, sadly, I did have a jumper on, so I kind of like gave it away a little bit. But yeah.
So obviously only the West Stand open. There was a lot of stadium talk surrounding the Ospreys, especially over the summer. A lot of rumours, a lot of council planning applications that may or may not have been submitted. Long term, would you boys like to see the Ospreys stay at this one or potentially have a move over?
I don't know, because obviously you hear mumblings all the time, especially with the Ospreys, because I think it was during COVID that the BBC ran a piece about the Knoll being redeveloped, but turns out that was actually redevelopment from about a decade ago, and it actually wasn't. Nothing came of it, so it was kind of like, it was something that they found on the internet probably, and just ran with it and realized, they've actually got the dates wrong, because it was something back in either 2009, 2010, something like that. So yeah, obviously, there's many positives about the Swansea.com stadium, but there's also quite a bit of negative as well. After seeing recent attendances of the last few years, it has looked like it's a bit too big for the Ospreys now, unfortunately. Gone are the days.
We're aware of that as well. I think the times when we do fill the stadium, I'm thinking it was Scarlets at home 2 seasons ago. Was the last time I properly remember it bouncing. And then I compare that to where we beat Montpellier last year at home. I get the time, the date wasn't great, but it was about 4,500 people there. And you compare that to the Alan Wynne-Jones Barbarians testimonial at St Helens, where there clearly is an appetite for St Helens Rugby, and I think with the right redevelopment, that's something that definitely I think the Ospreys should look into. There's a lot of heavy rumours right now, and I caveat all of this with these are just rumours, but I think there's something to look out for over the next couple of years. Because seeing that just that West Stand open is a bit depressing when you're, I think, as a fan. But we do have to remember we're in the middle of a World Cup. It's pre-season. It was a Friday at 7:00. It's not the prime time kickoff. Unfortunately, that's just the way the dice rolls for pre-season. I've been at pre-season games with 3:30 at the Knoll, where there's been about 12 people and a dog watching. At the end of the day, as long as the boys get the hit out.
Yeah, when you're looking at it at first, you think, the stand's closed, you think, that doesn't look very good. But like you mentioned, we are in the middle of a World Cup. Wales are through to the knockout stages, so there's probably be an extra couple of weeks of talk about Team Wales, and yeah, like you said, I went to one of the Hartpury games. I think it was 2 seasons ago. That was a good little trip, I thought, and I went to the Northampton game in Bridgend last season, and I thought that was quite a good. It was a nice venue to have, and the Ospreys have taken pre-season games, outside of Swansea. They've played two that I can remember at the Brewery Field in Bridgend. So, whilst on one side it looks quite bad seeing only one stand open, on the other hand, you're thinking, all right, it's just pre-season, international stars are away. And yeah, Darren, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. What do you think? Where does the future hold for the Ospreys? Is it in the Swansea.com or is it elsewhere?
Well, if rumours are to be true to be believe, I think I've heard a few matters around that a certain St Helens is getting redeveloped, and a potential stadium within a stadium is going to get put there in the next couple of seasons, I've heard. But yeah, like you said, we're in a football stadium at the end of the day. On a good day, what we get not as many, like I think it's 5 or 10,000 on a good day. It's not good, is it? Like, and then you like jokes on like social media saying, "Oh, look, they can't even fill their stadium." Yeah, because they're playing in like their own grounds, like RDS and all that, and the atmosphere, like you watch on the telly, and it's like, oh, why can't we have something like that? Like, but yeah, everyone's gonna have their opinions where they hold it like the Knoll or Bridgend or down in St Helens, or you play like 2 games, one venue 1 week and then 2 games, and just keep people happy. But we obviously need like a home to call ourselves a home, but it's really difficult. And I was down there last Friday, and to me there was no atmosphere. Yes, you could say like, not many people, Friday night late, the international's on, you're gonna bother going to watch your Ospreys play. But you got to World Cup or not World Cup, you got to stick with your home region, because you've got to get people money in somehow by going to watch them. But there's no atmosphere down there whatsoever. It did feel like a pre-season game. But yeah.
Yeah, and carry on, James.
Let's not dwell on that. There was only a couple of thousand there, or and things like that. We did win, pre-season game or not. We won, and hearing Bootsy talk at the full time, and Don Morris as well. We won. It's a young squad. We went up there. Wasn't perfect. Absolutely not. There's stuff to work on. Absolutely not. But the fact is, we got the job done. And we played some rugby, which isn't the case for the Ospreys normally, I don't think.
Yeah, and I was about to say, let's move on to the rugby, because it was quite an entertaining. I thought it was quite an entertaining game. A typical pre-season feel to it. Lots of changes been rung, and not many people taking penalty kicks from penalties, unlike the Dragons last week. But yeah, it was plenty of positives. Obviously, there's quite a bit to work on as well. So James, we get the ball rolling. What were your thoughts on the game as a whole?
Yeah, I think Messi, definitely. I still think that there's a lot of ring rust
in a lot of the boys.
Long pre-season. We've had sort of training sessions
up in Bath, with the Dragons, up in the Vale,
and we battled Cardiff in the Arms
Park as well. So I think there's,
the boys are lacking a bit of
game fitness, game awareness. So I take all that with a caveat. I thought there was some standout individual performances. I thought Jack Walsh, when he came on at 15, was really solid. I think that game suited him down to a T. I thought his kicking out of hand at 15 was excellent. He ran some great lines, off return kicks, and also in the back line as well. You see for the,
I think it's his try. He runs a lovely arc in line down the blind. He did it last season
as well, but I think he's got a lot more confidence going into this season. He kicked well, really, really complete performance from him, and took advantage of Cardiff's aimless kicking. I thought Cardiff kicked a lot of possession away, where the kicks were just that 5 meters too long, maybe not as accurate as they would have liked. And I thought De Beer went okay. I think he's great going forward, but I think kicking wise, him and Ben Thomas, I think especially kicked a lot
aimlessly. I thought Deves went really well. I thought Deves, he was everywhere.
Making his tackles. Probably not his best game in terms of carrying, but that's just a testament to Cardiff's physicality.
I think Deves is a very root one type of guy. He's not giving the back passes, things like that, which is fine. I thought Morris,
as usual, ran some brilliant lines
with the socks off. Does everything you ask him to. He is that too big
Town mould where you ask him to clean something up, he will.
And there's that. He had a great break off the
line out right in our half. Takes us up to the 20, just beyond the 22. I thought Tips went really well.
He doesn't look 34. Certainly doesn't play like he's still running about,
still carrying really well. I think.
And then Luke Davis, when he came on, I thought Ruben was fine. I think Ruben
just suffered a bit with Cardiff's physicality at the breakdown. Again, nothing on Rubes. But I thought Luke Davis came on. He was quick. He was accurate. He had some lovely, lovely touches of the ball. So,
yeah, no real bads
apart from Rusty. I thought we lacked physicality at the breakdown.
I don't think we expected
Cardiff to go as hard as they did at the breakdown.
I thought the refereeing could have been a bit
better. I don't think Adam Jones has ever seen a ruck before.
He certainly doesn't ref like this. And then I think
the obvious takeaway that I think we're all three of us going to mention is the scrum.
We only had 3 props available.
On the night Tommy Boat dropping out due to illness, not injury.
I thought Garin struggled a bit being that starter.
Reece Henry's a fantastic scrummager, but when you've got a Lucid who's down on confidence, that really takes it away from you as well. And I thought Ben Warren was fine when he came on. And then Reece moving back over to Lucid.
So yeah, but
you've got to remember that was Cardiff's pretty much, bar Domachowski was their first choice front row up against Ospreys' third choice front row. So I wouldn't read into that too much. I think with Tommy Boata back, that scrum's a lot steadier. But yeah, they're sort of definitely my insights into what I saw. You boys were at the stadium, a bit more eye level. What did you see? That?
I think, like you said, Dom Morris, I think, if he can stay fit, because obviously he's been injury prone when he played the Saracens, he looked quite good. And like you said, ran some good lines. I like the look of Max Nagy. Obviously, he came in last season, he proper. He looked quite settled at fullback, and he looked a bit shaky last season, but I think he's come on leaps and bounds this year. Looking forward to seeing him at 15. But obviously, like you said, you've got options now at 15 and 10. Wasn't really convinced by I can't remember his name now, but someone looked out of place, but I can't remember his name now. It'll come to me later probably. But yeah, Keelan Giles, picked up way last. Can't speak tonight. Sorry. Keelan Giles scoring again. Fantastic. Should be in the World Cup squad. That's just my personal opinion. But there you have a Dragons Rio Dyer in there instead. But there we go. Like you said, a bit rusty. There was one moment of play where I think Keelan Giles ran a fantastic line, and he looked to offload to someone, and then they just dropped it, and that was they left some tries out there. A forward pass from Tips, that was very unlike him, but rustiness, and they haven't had much game time together. Match fitness probably a bit low as well. But yeah, we got good and up and coming squad. Yes, they're young, but at the end of the day, with everything going on, we need young players and talented players coming through. You like said, Harry Deves, Garen Phillips, Luke Scully, Luke Davis. I think it's going to be an exciting season ahead, but we got to remember that we've lost 22 players, which are majority like Alan Jones, etc. We're going to have the odd bad game where we get pumped, but you never know. This team looks on paper, looks really young and inexperienced, but you got to start your foundation somewhere, and this team in like 2 or 3 years could be one of the top teams going forward.
Yeah, I thought both fullbacks that spent time there, Nagy and Walsh, were solid. I thought Nagy under the high ball, I thought he was very good first half. It was nice to see the Ospreys play a bit of a kicking game because Cardiff defended the backfield with just 2 on either wing. So Owen Williams had a field day at times where he just booted the ball down the middle. It looks, obviously, if you're looking at it on TV or whatever, you might think, oh, it's a bit boring play, but the true emphasis of a kicking battle is to win territory. And Owen Williams did that quite a few times on Friday night. Just booted it down the middle. So the Cardiff players had to retreat back in field. And then it's a tricky place to kick right from the middle of the field because the touchline looks so far away. It was nice to see Will Griffiths back as well. I think he and Rhys Davis looked like a really solid duo as a lock pairing. Hugh Sutton obviously came off from the bench, but the pair of them got themselves, they got themselves involved. Tiprick marshaled the line out superbly. I think
he gave Cardiff a headache. I think who was it? It was Belcher at the start, and then who came on afterwards? Was it?
I might have been Evan Lloyd.
I think Evan Lloyd will be seeing that scrum cap in his sleep because I think it was all illegal, and having been coached by Tips, he places a big emphasis on the line, and he's a big admirer of Evan Etson. And he just focuses on that lift, and you could see Evan Lloyd was doing and Belcher was doing nothing wrong. It's just Tippett and the 2 lifters, which are normally like Henry and Will Griff or Hash, were just up so quickly. Honestly, he's like a Croatian salmon. He just jumped so high.
Yeah.
Can I just
go on, Dad?
Can I just mention what is going on with Justin Tipurick's hair? It's so wild. Like, I was like, at one point, I was like, what is that Tipurick? And then it was, obviously. I was like, he's grown his hair. Like, and one supporter behind me said, I started shouting because Rory Thornton was, playing against us. And he had long hair as well. And one guy behind me shouted, he said, there's only room for one long-haired guy on that pitch, and that's Justin Tipurick. Get off, Thornton. So I found that
Rory Thornton.
Yeah.
The man much hyped by the Welsh media and who was distinctly average. And look,
Rory's a very capable rugby player.
And I thought had a lot of potential when he came through. And I think he was
quite unlucky he came through at the time he did.
Because you had BD was coming through the same time. I think
this might be a bit younger than Rory.
I think he is. I think he's a couple of years younger, actually.
But you had BD coming through. Brad Davis came back at that
time.
Alan was still playing games with
Ospreys.
So you had that. You had a
really good depth at a lock, and I don't think he ever replicated that 20s form. And I've been quite critical of Rory Thornton at Cardiff.
I think that he's not lived up to that potential. And then if I look at
our depth at lock now,
I think lock
is something that I think me and Yeston have spoken about this. There's lock is something I'm like, right, yeah, I'm really happy with our locks for the next 5 years. You've got Beardy, Rhys Davis, Sutton. I'm going to put Griffin at lock. You've got Darwinson, you've got Fender. It's a really good. You could put Tristan Davis in there, even though I think he's more of a 6.
I think that This is really smart.
and getting that boiler house just packed full of weight.
And they're all really
Different players as well. I think Beardy,
is brilliant in defence.
in terms of his maul, he does defend a lot better than people.
So, but then you look at Rhys Davies on
Friday, he was everywhere.
he was chased, he was hounding.
I think a lot of the reason to be his kicks weren't coming off was Davis was just up in his face a lot. I think then you got Will Griff who does all the donkey work. And Griff is a quite a flashy player, likes to live in the wide channels.
And unfortunately, we didn't get to see
That on Friday, but
that balance is really starting to become interesting for me.
Yeah, and I think lock and back row is probably solid positions to look at it. Obviously, we've got the URC starting in a couple of weeks. It's a tricky trip to Galway to kick off the season. You're going to see probably about 4 seasons in 80 odd minutes. So yeah, are we all looking forward to the URC? And what are we really expecting realistically?
I think it's going to be one of those seasons where it could be really good and it could be really bad. Obviously, like I alluded to earlier, for me, it's going to be a transition year because we got so many young players coming through all at once. But it could work in our favour and it could not, and it couldn't work in our favour. We've lost, like I said, 22 players. Will that really affect us? We got some players away with the World Cup, but sort of, I don't know if Cornwall have with Ireland, but Ireland seem to have, with the World Cup, they've probably lost a few boys as well. But no, I think I'm not going to give a prediction of where we're going to finish in the league because it could go one way or it could go the other way. I don't know. But it's going to be a transition year. Or blood these youngsters in now this season. And then whatever happens this season, we blame it on losing 20 players and everything. But then if it goes really well, then fantastic. But I'm not getting my hopes up, but we never know with the Ospreys. It can be, one thing or another. But I think next season and the season after, I don't think we're ever going to compete the likes of Leinster and all that ever again because they got an A, B, C, D, E, F, G team. It just goes on and on and on. But I'm looking forward to this season to see what it brings, and then we're going to go from there then.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of ups and downs. I think that's what supporters probably need to be wary of a little bit. We might see some really good performances, and you might see, a performance where it might not go so well. And yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, a bit like last season in some ways. And it's an exciting young squad with, when the internationals come back, there'll be a few more senior heads, of course. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it, to seeing how they play. We saw a little bit of that on Friday night. I think they'll be a bit more reliant on the kick-in, and hopefully they'll be able to sort out the odd chance that they missed in the 22. There was quite a couple, but that's what pre-season games are all about. And yeah, it wasn't just the Ospreys that played this weekend. We will shift our attention towards the World Cup because, well, Wales booked their place in the quarterfinals. They're now top of the group, and the Ospreys obviously had a couple of players playing in that one, and it was nice to see Dewi Lake back. But yeah, what were you boys? If you've obviously watched Wales against Georgia, what were you boys thinking about throughout the game, and what were your thoughts on the game?
I think it was a good performance from
Wales. I think Wales aren't really getting enough credit this
World Cup. I think they've been smart in how they've played. They've played a lot of their strengths. I think I've been a bit critical on
Rafael maybe in the past. He said, "What
really
really
is the offering apart from breakdown. I thought he was excellent in his role. And actually it frees up Faletau
and Wainwright to then play that bit more open game?" So I think That's a really nice back row balance. Would it be, obviously, fellas, I was like, no, but would it be the back row I take into Argentina? Probably not.
I think you're looking at Morgan, Wainwright, and then even potentially a Basham back row. But in terms of some of the other points,
I thought George North played well. I think he's had a really underrated World Cup.
I don't think he's dipped below 7 out of 10 in any of the games. And a lot of it
That's come from Tompkins.
giving him that opportunity to attack and things like that. He's doing a lot of what I want Owen Watkins to do this season. If we're talking back from an Ospreys point of view, being that, drawing that attention away from maybe a Don Morris at 13 or even just having that Nagy outside or something like that. I thought
Lake went really well. Now you
clearly see that Georgia had
identified Lake as a big carrier
there were 2-3 goals
every time. So I think you didn't see that dynamism in his power in his carrying game, but that's simply because that was a piece of analysis that Georgia did.
And then I think
it's tough when Nicky comes on
in a Georgia scrum that was pretty much on top for the entire game. I don't think that's a slight on Nicky at all. There's not much you can do. Speaking as a
loose at a much lower level, when you've just got a scrum that's on top of you, you can't. No
technique and all that is going to change that. So a good
performance by Wales. Georgia had their chances.
I'm just going to lost that
on Twitter about saying Georgia deserved more from that game. I don't think they did. I think they were wasteful.
I think they sort of played the wrong areas at times.
When they did score, it was when they were playing the right type of rugby.
They were a lot like Fiji last night. Yes, it was fine playing this type of rugby, having played it in
Really,
but you've got to make it count in areas. And Wales just did.
I think Wales have got something like a ridiculous 22
to 22 entry to points ratio this World Cup, which for a Gatland
side is mental.
Speaking from a
non-Ospreys player's point of view, Zamet, brilliant. I think there's still more levels to his game. I think I saw the Rio Dyer hype
in this game, in the fact that
what Gatland's told him is, look, Louis going to score all tries. What I want you is to chase everything and tackle your balls off. And he did. And I think that's why Dyer went over someone like Tom Rogers or something like that. I think the big talking point is Costello at 10.
And I do feel the boy,
he was thrown in 10 minutes before kick-off, saying, right, you're going to start, you're going to
marshal this game. And although I think
he did play well, I think he's really rough around the edges, and he's not
the 10 to take Wales to Six Nations next year. I think he still needs a season of being in international camps.
Where he's that understudy role.
Because there were parts of his game yesterday, I
just thought, oh, you didn't need to
give that pass. You didn't need the dog leg in
defence. I think,
having that
trust of Tompkins outside him and then whoever's inside him is a big thing for a 10. But when you've got a 10 that's defensively sound, like bigger,
who is a big guy, and Hanscom's not awful at defence either, but actually probably defends more outside the 13
and the 15.
And as everyone
step in and said then, so I think it's just Costello understanding his role in that system
a bit more. But overall,
I thought Wales played exactly the type of game they should,
and I think they should be confident going into the Argentina game next week.
What are your thoughts on Wales this week?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit scrappy in the middle quarter. I think there's shades of what we saw against Fiji, where Wales came out of the blocks quite well, and then they spent about 20-odd minutes kind of like faffing around, really. And there was the times where you thought, oh, that looks a little bit nervy. I think it was it's a lesson that, as you mentioned, Costello will learn. and I think that'll be a good 80 minutes for him, to learn. And I thought his goal kicking was good. Okay, he missed the last kick of the match, but that's quite irrelevant now. So yeah, it was a bit of a solid performance for Wales. At times you thought, I looked a little bit scrappy, and credit to Georgia, they did make it scrappy at times, but somehow a scrap between Ninyasvili and Basham changed the game completely, and which everyone got involved in. I just remember watching it live, and I see Dewi Lake somehow in the middle of a
Gareth Thomas somehow got in the middle of that. No, look, I'm not saying he's threw punches, but he's called the general for a reason. So
yeah, and surprisingly, Dan Bigger was the peacemaker, which I don't think that's happened before. But as you said, we may as well look forward to Argentina. And Darren, what do you think Wales are going to, what are they going to be up against, next week against a side that might be have struggled a little bit at the beginning, but again a little bit better.
Well, I think obviously players to look out for. I think the Dragons number 9, Gonzalo Bertino. Going forward, I think he looks quite sharp. He's played quite decent from what I've seen him when he played for the Dragons, and obviously the veteran in Crevi in it of Argentina. I think he's about 38, going about 50 now, and he is. Seems like he's been around forever, but yeah, Argentina are there, for a reason. I think it's gonna be a tough game, because they like their flair and in attack. Don't underestimate them. But I think with the players that we got Zammit on the wing, who's electric. Even off a loose ball, he'll just run all day. And Tompkins in midfield. We've got George North. We got Debbie Lake, who some might say he shouldn't be in, and Elias should be starting. But I think proven on the Georgia game, he threw 13 lineouts and we won 13. I think he's back to his best in a Wales shirt, because there was a few critics around him not throwing the lineouts really good, but he had a good game. But yeah, what are your selections? Who would you pick for Wales against Argentina on Saturday?
James, you can get that one.
I think you go as close to that Australia game as you can. I think looking at Argentina yesterday against Japan, a lot of their tries just came from Japan dropping off tackles. You look at that first Chopper Perez try. Does that happen in a Wales defensive system under Mike Forshaw? Probably not. I think that I trust North and Tompkins to make that hit there. I think that it's going to be a really interesting battle in the back row. Both teams haven't lost big players, and we've lost Falatau and they've lost. I think Kremer, I think, as was it Matera has been injured. So I think I think it's Matera looking on them actually. I think that the battle of the back row is going to be huge, and then I think for me the two big talking points in that back row and them centres. Obviously, we know it's going to be North and Tompkins. Are they going to be able to withstand Chocolate and Cincy? And then you're looking at Josh Adams versus Buffelli is a bit of a breathtaking matchup. And then probably an underrated matchup then is like Rowlands versus Lavanini. Two big men who just love to carry. So I think that game will be one whether Argentina keep that discipline, that penalty countdown. They let Japan back in yesterday. Their discipline, I think, was awful. But Wales equally have this tendency in the Gatland to let teams back in for 20 minutes. And the only game we haven't seen that happen is Australia. I think that we kept Australia, apart from the first 11 minutes, we kept Australia at arm's length. But with Fiji, we let them back in, we let Portugal back in, and we let Georgia back I think you got that 20 minutes either side of half time, where you think, right, we have to keep Argentina at bay, keep the penalty count going, keep kicking goals. I personally, I think we start Elias,
And I think you put Lake on the bench.
I think you need that physical presence coming on. I like Elliot a lot.
I think he's a really underrated player.
But does he bring that same
physicality as Lake?
I think not. The same reason I probably think he's going to pick Domachowski over Nicky Smith. Not because I think Domachowski is a better scrummager, he's not. But I think Domachowski just does bring that bit more physicality to come off the bench. I think then he takes Henry Thomas. Because I think as Dylan Lewis is he's an enigma as a player. He looked at South Africa tour last year, but he played really well. But then I looked at him since the Cardiff shirt, and I think, how on earth are you scrummaging at top level like this? So I think they're the
main three selection conundrums for Gatland is
who do you pick as that replacement front row to come on and bring that physicality at around 50, 60 minutes. I don't know about you yesterday, you think differently?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, I think. Selection is going to be also important, especially, we obviously don't know what the fitness is of Dan Biggar and Gareth Anscombe at the moment. I think Gatland will be sweating quite a bit over that. If Biggar's fit, which some people are saying he is, some people are saying he isn't. So that's going to be up for debate over the next couple of days. So if he's fit, I think he'll come in at 10, and I'm sure he'll marshal things quite well. And I think he'll start with Elias, and I think he'll keep with probably the same pack as they did against Australia and Fiji. I think obviously now Faletau's been moved out, so the back row becomes a little bit tough to predict. You put Basham at 8, you put Jack Morgan at 8, you bring Reffel in and maybe play 2 open sides, or do you go for an out-and-out 6 like Lydiate, or even possibly Christ Windsor? But
I think
it all depends if he's going to target that breakdown area or not.
I think that them losing Matera maybe takes away that physicality of the breakdown for Argentina that they historically would have had. And we've got probably Alemano might come in and maybe they just show up for a big heavy 6. So I think
it all depends on what Gatland feels that
is going to be the breakdown, because I think when you
look at Wales in the past when they've gone to open sides, it's been Tips and Warby,
where they were really different players, really different.
Morgan and Rafael different enough to be distinct as 2 open sides on the pitch. I don't think they actually are. I think that they're quite similar players in the fact they're really physical, really good in the tackle area.
I think Morgan obviously excels in the carrying aspect of Rafael
and that breakdown, but I don't think they're 2 distinct enough players to be like
to stand at 7 and 6. And I think Ospreys have struggled with that as well when they played Tips and Jack Morgan together. I think last
year you looked at our best back row, it was when you had
Ethan Roots at 6, Morgan Morris at 8, and then you could put Tips on Morgan. It didn't really matter
because of the way they play in a booth system.
Ethan Roots is going to go around and hit someone. Morgan Morris is going to carry. And then your 7
has the right to roam. I think in a Gatland system, I think he really likes Wainwright, and I think he'll move him to 8.
Put him in that Faletau role of you're just going to carry
everything. I don't want you to do anything else. I think Morgan is his skipper.
And Jack Morgan's there to take 20 plus tackles.
And then I think he goes Christians at 6. And look, I'm not Christians' biggest fan. I think he's still really raw, but
he's big, he's athletic, he's in that mold. So I think actually he brings
with 20 to go and just says, go steal some ball breakdown. That's where you rack a penalty count up, or send you 9 points up, or you're down the field in the driving line-outs, which we know Wales in this World Cup, that's been a really, really good source of try score opportunities for them. So I think this is just
Yeah, we could talk about back rowers all day, especially with the the current crop that's obviously in France. And yeah, it was a bit of an interesting call to call up Kieran Hardy, I thought, and as Faletau's replacement. I can see why Gatland's done it, mainly because, if one of the two nines go down, and you don't really want Sam Costello as your bench 9 and 10 at the same time, just in case one of the fly halves go down as well.
It says a lot, I think, in a modern game where you don't trust your back 9 enough. And I think for back at the 2009
Lions tour,
I was reflecting on this recently. Mike Phillips was out and out 9, and then you had, I think it was like
Thomas O'Leary and
Andy Ellis with the 2 backups John Ellis. I think they just never
played because
as soon as Phillips came off, the game just falls apart. And I think this Wales team really suffers with that. As soon as Gareth Davies comes off, that Wales team falls apart. And I think Thomas Williams has not had a
good World Cup, or not had his best World Cup, I should say.
I think he was in a really good place for Cardiff at the end of last year. Tore us apart Judgment Day, and I just think
where's that form gone? His speed of ball is too slow.
I think he's not kicking. Gareth Davies is kicking really, really well. So I'm not surprised he's called Hardy up, and I wouldn't be surprised actually to see Hardy on the bench against Argentina. I don't know, what do you
think, Darren, the decision to call Kieran Hardy up? I know you're a big Morgan Morris supporter.
Yeah, crazy. Like, obviously, it was either between Morris or Plumtree, because Plumtree was originally in the squad when he, before everything got selected. But I don't know. But like you said just now, if 9 goes down, then 9 goes down, and then we're not really sure about Dan Baker and Anscombe's current situation. Or do you? I don't know. It's just, I think at the end of the day, we've got to trust Gatland and what Gatland is concerned about, that he hasn't got a backup 9 if one of them did go down. But yeah, I personally would have either called up Plumtree because he was in the original 32 or whatever it was, or Morgan Morris. But yeah, do I dare ask the question, how far can Wales actually go in this World Cup?
I was about to get on to predictions. So
I think that there's a semi-final. Definitely.
We're looking at either Ireland or New Zealand.
Let's not kid ourselves
here.
I think the Hoodoo of beating New Zealand is still
hanging over us. I think even if New Zealand scrape past Ireland, I don't think that we have that mental block against Ireland. I just think we're not good enough currently to beat Ireland.
I think we put away Ireland in was it 2011?
We put them away
2015 or so, or am I making that up? I think I'm making that up.
In 2011, we definitely put them away.
I think Argentina knocked them out in 2015.
But
look, the pressure's all on Ireland.
We make it to
semi-final. No one's expecting us to go all the way.
But actually, I think
that there's that belief in the squad that
we get to semi-final,
anything can happen. I think people forget that in 2019, we were only a penalty kick away from the final. And I firmly believe that we would have beaten England in that final.
So,
yeah.
Look, I think semi-final
definitely, but dare we dream
about the final.
Yeah, I was watching a bit of the 2019 back a few weeks ago, and I think it was Francis and North that went down in the first half of the semi-final against the Springboks, and you're thinking, if Wales had them on the field, I think it's a different result, because the poor Owen Watkin had to come on and and defend on the wing, which was well, it proved a little bit costly, I believe. I think that's how South Africa got their try. So yeah, like you said, I think it's going to be. I think they'll just about edge it on Saturday. I think it's going to be quite a close game actually, but I think they'll just cling on. If Bigger's back, they should be fine. But yeah, I think probably the semi-final victory against either Ireland or New Zealand's probably a step too far for this current crop of players. I just think, you know, if it was 4 years ago and we had there was that was our semi-final opponent, I'd be a bit more confident, except that we played the Springboks and their pack was quite big. And yeah, so I think whoever we play in the semis is going to be a tough game, regardless. You know, even if we sat on the other side of the draw, it'd have been France or South Africa, and that would have been quite a grueling 80 minutes, whoever we played. So yeah, I probably agree with you there, James. Probably would say semi-final. Darren, any predictions?
Well, I'm not one for to give predictions, but you know, at the beginning of the tournament, no one even gives us a chance of getting out of the group with Australia and Fiji, and then we've proved them wrong, and we've got out of the group, and we've come this far. I think we try to take it game by game, but like you said, whatever side of the draw we're on, we got South Africa, New Zealand, England on the day, France, South Africa. I don't know. I think we'll beat Argentina. I think whoever plays a 10, like Dan Bigger or whatever, I think we'll do quite all right against Argentina. It might be a close game, or we might just run away with it like we did against Australia. But who knows? But yeah, I think if Ireland or New Zealand, you know, look what Ireland did to Scotland. Scotland were bigging themselves up, thinking, "Oh, we're going to beat Ireland," and then Ireland just took them to the cleaners on the weekend. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, the tournament itself is quite, you know, we're getting to the business end, so it's obviously going to be quite exciting. And yeah, probably the final question for the evening, of course, you know, it's you know, it's relatively early stages, only being the quarterfinals, but is anyone going to stick their neck on the line and predict the winner?
Oh, it's tough to look past Ireland right now. I think that, look, if it's going to be their year, it's got to be this year. Do I look at an Ireland squad in 4 years' time and think, oh, you're going to win the World Cup? No. I think if you look at the boys who are really performing for Ireland now, Lowe might make the next World Cup. Peter O'Malley's not making the next World Cup. Obviously Sexton probably will lead to hatred and spite. Conor Murray's definitely not. Gibson Park's not. The Dublin James Ryan, the Dublin Adam Beard, has been not had his best tournament. I don't think. He struggled with injury, looking like he might be out for the New Zealand game. Clearly can't handle being in the same competition as a British and Irish Lion.
I was waiting for that. As soon as you mentioned James Ryan, I was waiting for that.
No, I think Ireland have to win it. I think if Ireland don't, it's going to be. I think it's going to be France. Look, if you look at that game, how can you not love that French team? There's not, even with Dupont. Let's just say he's out for the minute. You look at that French team and you think, oh, how is anyone stopping that? So I think between France and Ireland for me.
Yeah, Darren, any call for the winner?
I'm going to say France is their home World Cup. I think, you know, I mean the world to Dupont. Yes, he should be back. Ntamak, or whatever his name is, he was gutted that he was in Germany for the World Cup. I think he would have had the best World Cup for himself. But yeah, I think France for me personally. You know, you got Ramos, who's an outstanding kicker for France. You got Olivon. You got Penno, who's having the best World Cup of his life. I think he's on like 14 tries, 15 tries this calendar year. He's been outstanding for France. Like, what about you, Yestin? Who are you going to go with?
I'm really torn. It's between. I know Ireland played ridiculously well on Saturday, but it's just about between France and South Africa for me. I think the quarterfinal on Saturday night after the Wales game, if the Wales game goes horribly wrong, which it could easily because we never know. I think France against South Africa is going to be an absolute cracker. It's a bit like the Autumn game they had a couple of years ago, where it just chaos. All right, there was a couple of red cards, but it was just brilliant. And I think whoever wins it might go all the way. I know it sounds a bit daft that they're going to probably beat the living daylights out of each other in the quarters, so it could be.
I have a question. Dare we see England beat Fiji after their performance in Samoa on the weekend, but also
Fiji performing awful last night.
I don't know. I haven't. I really don't know, because I think Ford is going to really back to that kicking game. So
do you kick to Fiji in the loose is the question. Do you want to, if
We're running at you for 80 minutes.
if I was Johnny May,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think Fiji have found a little bit of a way to win a little bit uglier than what their style of play is. I think obviously they didn't win last night, but credit to Portugal, they were outstanding. But against Australia and Georgia, I thought, right, they they're taking 3 points. Okay, they were a bit reluctant a couple of times against Georgia not to take 3 points, but Georgia were. But I thought against Australia, they showed that they could win, not by just running in tries from 80 or whatever meters. They could, do it the hard way. And I think England will give them a game. I think there's probably a score in it. But I think Fiji might just come out on top. I think there'll be some sprinkling of magic by someone, and I think he'll win in the game.
I firmly believe that England in this game, and I think they're going to play 2 scores. I think that Borthwick has found a way to win ugly. The England at the minute play like the Ospreys a couple of seasons ago. They drag people down to that level and just beat them into submission. Not saying that Mario Tosh is like Lloyd Ashley, but he's playing like him at the minute. If Sean Venter somehow turns out
for England, I would not be surprised.
But I think
England are going to win, and they're going to win ugly. I think it could be,
I guess, a
17-7 win or something like that.
Or it's going to be a Fiji play like Samoa, go to that high game. It's a tough one to call, but I think England can win that. And I think they do ugly.
Yeah, and probably the final question of the night. I think we'll wrap it up quite soon. Darren, obviously, as we just mentioned, England against Fiji. Who have you got?
I'm gonna say Fiji. I can't stand the English, no offense. I can't stand them. I think, yeah, they're both in there to deserve their rights. I don't think Borthwick. I know we're going off subject of it, but I don't think Borthwick's a man for England. I think if Eddie Jones had stayed there, I think he'd be out as well if he was coaching England as well. But no, I'm going to back Fiji. Yes, they lost yesterday. Fair play to Portugal. They shouldn't have been in the World Cup, should they? Because I think Spain, was it? They replaced Spain, didn't they? So, fair play for them for getting a win in the World Cup. But no, I think Fiji will turn up next weekend, and with their brute force of being Fijian, they're going to turn England over, and they're going to beat them by like 3 or 5 point margin. I think Fiji are going to do it, I think.
Yeah, and if Nicola Martin wants to spend a bit of time in Swansea, I'm sure Swansea's a nice place half the time, and I think
if Appleton wants a game, there are plenty. He's a dentist, isn't he? There's plenty of dentists in in Swansea. And
Yeah, there's plenty of employment done here, but
There's
well,
plenty of
them Portuguese boys I would take. Same with the Japanese lads. You know, if Fakatava wants to get on the phone, look, I'll happily do a swap with. I love you, Lewis Jones. I'm sure you're a nice boy, but if you want to go to Japan, then I'll have Fakatava. No worries. Just before we wrap it up, lads, I have a question. Well, a bit of a statement and a question. No Ospreys now until I believe until after we record next. So we'll do a bit of a preview for Connor
next week. Who's your player to
look out for after Friday and after the Dragons? Who is the Ospreys player to look out for this season? And tell me why.
That's a good question. Well, the obvious answer is Rhys Henry, isn't it? And if you saw the offload in the first half, and you know why. And I really want to say Jack Walsh, but I'll go. I think Max Nagy will probably start at 15, and so I think I'll go with him. And you know, he looked solid in the high ball, and I think at times he showed, you know, maybe a chance to attack, and I'm sure Boothie will spend the next couple of weeks, you know, looking at that particular counter-attacking threat that we saw Welsh do, and I'm sure Nagy will pick up a few things. So yeah, Max Nagy.
If he can stay injury-free for the season, Dom Morris looked an excellent signing. I know he's on loan, but I expect good things of him. I've heard good things of him. But if he can't stay fit, then I'm going to say Rhys Davies will have a fantastic season in lock. Yes, when Beard comes back, it'll be a bit of a dogfight who plays in that position. But Rhys Davies, but mainly Dom Morris. What about you, James?
I think
that Matt Prothero is a make or break season for Pro.
Horrible injury against Bulls last year. I'm sure Storm was making broke his arm within minutes coming back. Has to push for that starting spot as a really big opportunity this year. I think for him to start on that wing with Giles and the other one. You know, I'm not Nick
Morgan's biggest fan, but he does a job.
But actually, with Morris
coming in, it gives us that option at centre.
It means that probably can, I think, really have to push on. I think
from a forwards point of view.
I actually, in all seriousness,
I think Rhys Henry is one to look out for this year.
I think every time that boy is called upon,
he performs.
More seriously. He's probably one of the only boys to come back from
South Africa last year.
With a bit of credit in the bank. For a prop, he's got a lovely feet, passes off both hands really well. Scrum both sides of the scrum to a really high standard.
And I think with Franny leaving, and so you've got Tommy Boter as a starting prop, I think there's a really big case for him this season, put in a couple of big performances. I'm looking at like Zebra at home as our first home game. I think he can really put a marker down and just say, yeah, I'm gonna put it down this season. So I think in the backs, I think Matt Prothero, and I think Rhys Henry as a forward.
Yeah, and obviously there's not long until that first URC game against Cardiff, and I think we will ended up wrap this up here as my voice is about to end.
Hopefully, we made it through.
I'm surprised as well. So hopefully my voice will be back next week. Huge thanks to James and Darren for carrying me through this week. It's definitely been a bit interesting in my ear, especially how croaky my voice is now turning into. Make sure you find us on Spotify, and apparently there might be a little pieces on YouTube as well in the near future, which you can see me pick up a glass of water and realize that there wasn't any water in it and look rather annoyed. But that's enough about me. I am going to try and get my voice fixed, and hopefully you lot can join us next week for another episode of the Ospreys Eyrie podcast. Thanks for listening.
Have a good one.
Bye bye.